Hello everyone, how are you? Now we are going to discuss about module 2, basic switch and end device configuration. First, we are going to discuss about Cisco IOS access. All device requires operating system. Like that, the Cisco devices like routers and switches also require operating system to function. Usually in mobiles we are using Android operating systems, in laptops we are using Windows operating systems. Like that, what is the operating system we are using in our routers and switches? In routers and switches we are using the Internetworking Operating System IOS. Now for example, this operating system runs in a router or a switch. Now we are going to access this operating system from a PC. How do you access the IOS of a device, IOS of a router from a PC or any other device? So to access that, there are three access methods are there. What are they? Console access method, SSH, secure shell access method, telnet. So these are all the three different types of access method available. Okay, when we have to apply the console access method, when we have to use the telnet and SSH, we will discuss. Okay, for example, we have purchased a new device. We are going to do the initial configuration, or we are going to perform the first time configuration. In that instant, we have to use the console cable. So the console cable is used to configure a new device, or in case if you want to perform some maintenance, you have to use the console cable. You have to use the console cable. Right, next we will discuss about the SSH and telnet. Before that, you can see the console cable on the screen. If you see that the console cable has two ends, one end of the console cable is connected with RS-232 interface, the other end is with RJ45 interface. RS-232 interface is connected with the PC, and then RJ45 interface is connected on the console port of the router or a switch. Right. Now we will discuss about the SSH. If you see, the SSH and telnet are used to manage the switch or a router remotely. So the only difference between the SSH and telnet is the telnet is less secured or insecure compared to the SSH. SSH is completely secure. So SSH establish a secure remote CLI connection to the device, whereas the telnet establish a insecure remote CLI connection to a device. When we use telnet, the telnet never use any authentication. So the passwords, it will not use any authentication, and the user commands everything will send as a plain text in the telnet. Whereas in the SSH, all the user commands and password, everything will be sent as an encrypted text. So that is the major difference between the telnet and the SSH. If you see the Cisco IOS is having 4 modes. What are the 4 modes? The 4 modes are user exe mode, privilege exe mode, global configuration mode, and specific configuration mode. The last one, the specific configuration mode, is having 2 sub configuration mode, line configuration mode and interface configuration mode. We will discuss all these modes one by one. First we will start with the user exe mode. The user exe mode is the first mode. The user exe mode allows access only to the limited number of basic monitoring commands. You can execute only the basic monitoring commands in the user exe mode. How do you identify the user exe mode? Each mode is identified by using the symbol on the prompt. If you see the CLI prompt, the CLI prompt represents the device name followed by a symbol. Using that particular symbol, you can easily identify the device mode. For example, if the prompt represents the greater than symbol, that means you are in the user exe mode. In the right side, look at there, router greater than symbol, switch greater than symbol. What is this? The name of the device is router followed by the greater than symbol. That means the router, now it is available in the user exe mode. switch greater than symbol. Switch is the name of the device. Now it is in the user exe mode. So when you access the iOS of the device, you will access the user exe mode initially. Right, now we will see the next mode. What is the second mode? Second mode is the privilege exe mode. Right, how do you identify the privilege exe mode? The privilege exe mode is identified by using the symbol. What is the symbol? Hash. Look at there, router hash and then switch hash. So the hash is the symbol which is used to represent the privilege exe mode. So which symbol is used to represent the user exe mode? Which symbol is used to represent the privilege exe mode? So like that we can ask the questions. Right. Now if you see this privilege exe mode, the privilege exe mode allows access to all the commands and features. Right. Now this, if you want to move from user exe mode to privilege exe mode, you have to execute the command enable in the user exe mode. Right. So I said that there are 4 modes are there. We have discussed the first 2 modes. What is the third mode? Global configuration mode. So how to go to the global configuration mode from the privilege exe mode? We have to execute the command. What is that command? Config T or configure terminal. So configure terminal is the full form of the command. If you want to type shortly, you can use config T. Right. Now we are in the third mode, global configuration mode. So in this mode, we have to do all the configuration. If you want to do any changes in the iOS, the changes will be done through the global configuration mode. So the global configuration mode is represented by using the CLI prompt, the device name followed by config hash. Device name followed by config hash. So the next 2 modes are line config mode and then the interface configuration mode. The line configuration mode is used to configure the different lines, console line, SSH, telnet, auxiliary lines. So to configure all these lines, we will use the line configuration mode, especially to configure the password for these lines. Then the next one is interface configuration mode. This interface configuration mode, it is used to configure a switch port or a router interface. If you want to assign the IP address for the SVI, switch virtual interface, or VLAN in a switch, or if you want to configure the IP address for the interfaces in the router, we have to use this interface configuration mode. Okay, look at the right side. The line mode is represented by using the prompt, the device name followed by config-line hash. Like that, the interface mode is represented by using the symbol device name followed by config-if hash. So now you can easily understand, if the prompt displays switch config-if hash, that means you are in which mode? You are in interface mode. If the prompt displays like switch, the device name is switch, config line. So how we are in which mode? We are in line configuration mode. Okay, navigation between iOS mode. How to move from the privilege exe mode to global configuration mode. How to move from global configuration mode to line configuration mode. Right. So now first we will discuss how to move from the user exe mode to privilege exe mode. So in the right side, look at there, switch. What is the prompt there? Greater than symbol. That means we are in which mode? We are in the user exe mode. Now we have to move to the second mode. What is the second mode? Privilege exe mode. How do you move to the privilege exe mode? In the user exe mode, you have to execute the command. First you have to type the command. What is that command? Enable, or you have to type the command en. Right. After that you have to execute the command. How do you execute the command? Just press the enter key, the command will be executed. Once you execute the command, you will go to the next mode. Which mode? Privilege exe mode. Are you in privilege exe mode? How do you confirm? By using the symbol. Look at the symbol at the end of the second line. Switch hash. So the hash represents the privilege exe mode. Right. Now we go to the now we are in the privilege exe mode. Now we will go to the third mode. The third mode is the global configuration mode. How do you move to the global configuration mode? Now in this privilege exe mode, you have to execute the command configure space terminal, or you can type config space T, the short form of the command. So if you execute this command, you can move to the global configuration mode. Right. Now First we started with the user exe mode, then we reached the privilege exe mode, now we reached the global configuration mode. Now I want to go back. Now we are in the third mode. I want to go back to the second mode, that is privilege exe mode. So what is the command we have to execute? We have to execute the command exit. If you type the command exit and execute the command, so you will go to the privilege exe mode. Look at the example, switch config hash. So what is the command we are executing? Exit. So if you execute the command exit, you will go back to the privilege exe mode. Next, line mode. How to access the line mode? What are the commands? Already we have console line, we have virtual terminal line, we have different lines are there, management lines are there. Okay, so if you want to enter into the line mode, you have to enter the command line console 0 or line vty 0 to 15. If you execute any one of this command, you can enter into the line mode. Then from line mode, you can go back to the previous mode. Which is the previous mode for the line mode? Global configuration mode. How do you go back to the global configuration mode? By executing the command exit. Now we will discuss a little bit in detail about the sub configuration mode. What are the two sub configuration mode of the specific configuration mode? Line mode and the interface mode. So how do you identify the line mode? The line mode is represented by using the prompt switch config -line hash. How do you identify the interface mode? Switch config -if hash. Right. Say for example, we are in the line mode. Now there are two options are there. From line mode, you can go to the third mode, that is the global configuration mode. From line mode, you can go to the privilege exe mode, that is the second mode. Right. I want to go from line mode to the global configuration mode. What is the command you have to execute? Exit. If you want to go back to the immediate previous mode, you have to execute the command exit. Right. Now I want to go from line mode to privilege exe mode. In this case, you have to execute the command end, or you have to execute the command control Z. Are you clear? Okay. Now assume that you are in the interface mode. Your prompt is like this: switch config -if. Okay, you are in the interface mode. You need to go back to the privilege exe mode, that is the second mode. What is the command you will execute? You have to execute the command end. Right. Now you are in the same interface mode. You have to go back to the global configuration mode. What is the command you have to execute? You have to execute the command exit. See, in a network, if you have more than one switch and router, all the devices are having the default name. If you see the router, all the routers are represented by using the default name router. All the switches are represented by using the default name switch. If you have more than one device, it is very difficult to identify the configuration of the devices. For that purpose, we are going to assign a unique name for the devices. So how to assign the unique name for the devices? Okay, if you want to assign any name or IP address, if you want to do any changes or any configuration, everything will be done only in the global configuration mode. So if you are in any mode, first you have to move yourself to the global configuration mode. Say for example, you are in the user exe mode. How do you reach the global configuration mode? First you have to execute the command enable, then you have to execute the command config t. After reaching the global configuration mode, you have to change the host name. How do you change the host name? To change the host name, we have to use the command. What is the command? Host name followed by the given name of the device. So what is the name of the device given here? Here the name of the device is like this: switch SW-floor-1. Maybe this switch is available in the first floor, because of that they assigned a name like this. Right. Now how do you assign this name? What is the default name of this device? The default name of the device is switch. Now I am going to assign this customized name. So to do that, we have to execute the command in the global configuration mode. So what is that command? Host name followed by the customized name. So you have to execute this command. If you execute this command, in the immediate next line, you can see that the name of the device is changed. the default device name is replaced with the customized name. Right. When you assign the device name for the host name or device name, you have to follow some guideline. So there are some guidelines for naming the devices. What are the guidelines? You have to start the name with a letter always. That means you should not start a device name using an alphabet, not possible. So you have to always start with a letter. Second thing, the device name should not contain any space in between. The third thing is you have to end the device name with a letter or a digit. So this is also compulsory. Okay. If you see, you can use when you create a device name, you can use letters, digits and dash. You cannot use dot or any other operators or any other symbols. Nothing is not allowed here. And the maximum size of the device name is 64 characters length. Okay, I have assigned a device name. For example, by mistake I have done some mistake on the device name. I want to change it, or I want to replace the device name with the default device name. How do you change the device name, or how do you remove the customized device name? If you want to remove or if you want to change, you have to use the command no host name. Simply, that's all. If you execute the command no host name, the customized host name will be replaced with the default name. So what is the customized name now? sw-floor-1 config hash. So this is the customized name is sw-floor-1. I want to replace this name with the default name. What is the default name? The default name is switch. For switch it is switch, for router it is router. Okay, I want to replace with the default name. If you want to replace the customized name with the default name, you have to execute the command no host name. Okay, the next thing is password guidelines. We have to secure our devices using the password. Usually our mobile, our laptop, we will secure all the devices using the password, right? Like that, we have to secure the iOS of the devices. We are going to secure the user exe mode, privilege exe mode, console line, line VTY. So we are going to secure all those things by using the password. Some password guidelines are there. When we assign the passwords, we have to follow the guidelines. We have to use the password that are more than 8 characters in length. You know that. The next thing is you have to use a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters. Okay. The next thing is you have to use the combination of uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers and special symbols under numeric sequences. You can use normally what we will do some mistakes while creating the password. We will use the same password for all our accounts. We have to avoid this. And the next mistake is we will use the some phrases or some date of birth or our mobile number as a password. Usually this can be guessed by some other people. They can guess easily. We have to avoid this type of things. If you see our lab activities, in all our lab activities we are using the password as a Cisco and class. Actually this is a weak password. In real time we should avoid this Cisco and class, these passwords. We should not use this password. This is only for just to save the time and for to create the activity, to make the activity easy. They have assigned this password. In real time we should not use this. Okay, configuring password. First we are going to configure the password for the user exe mode. We are going to secure the user exe mode by using the password. How to secure the user exe mode by using the password? For example, now I already said that if you want to do any configuration, that should be done only in the global configuration mode. First you have to go to the global configuration mode. If you are in user exe mode, you have to type the command enable, then you have to type the command config t, then you have to start. Okay, right. Now I want to configure the password for the user exe mode. What are the commands we have to use? For that we have to use the command line console 0. Okay, and then password. What is the given password? For example, the given password is Cisco. You have to type the given password. Okay, then the next command is login. What is this login? This login command is used to activate the password. This enables the password. If you are not given this password, the password is configured, but it will not ask the password when you access the user exe mode. So when you want to activate this, you have to activate this password by using the login command. Okay, next we are going to secure the privilege exe mode. The privilege exe mode can be secured by using a plain text password, or it can be secured by using an encrypted password. For example, if you are going to secure the privilege exe mode by using the plain text password, you have to use the command enable password, and then you have to type the given password. Say for example, the given password is Cisco. So enable password Cisco. If you are going to secure the privilege exe mode by using the encrypted password, you have to use the command enable secret password. For example, the given password is class. So you have to configure enable secret class. So you have to understand the difference between these two commands. If you are going to configure the privilege exe mode by using the plain text password, you have to use the command enable password. If you are going to secure the privilege exe mode by using the encrypted password, you have to use the command enable secret password. Right, now we are going to secure the VTY line access. How to secure the VTY line access? For that, you have to execute the command. Any configuration if you want to do, you have to go to the global configuration mode. First you have to ensure whether we are in the global configuration mode or not. Then only you have to start the configuration. Okay, so first you have to go to the global configuration mode. Now we are going to secure the virtual terminal lines. What is VTY? Virtual terminal lines. Okay, so how do you secure this virtual terminal lines using the password? So you have to execute the command line VTY 0 to 15. Then you have to execute the command password. You have to type the given password. For example, the given password is Cisco. So password Cisco. So if you want to activate any password, you have to use the command login. Already we discussed in line console also login, right? So the same login command you have to use to activate the password Cisco. Alright, now if you see here, the virtual terminal lines enables the remote access using telnet or SSH to the device. Many Cisco switches supports up to 16 virtual terminal lines. So this virtual terminal lines are numbered from 0 to 15. Right, now when we configure the user exe mode with password or privilege exe mode with password or console line with password, all this password will be stored in a file. Which file? Where is that file? All this password will be stored in the running configuration file. Okay, so there are two system files are there in the routers and switches. The system files are startup configuration file and the running configuration file. Okay, so this changes or the passwords configured are stored in the running configuration files initially. Okay, so if you see, all the passwords are stored as a plain text password. Right, what is the drawback of this? So if anyone opens the running configuration file, they can see all the passwords, so they can copy the password. Then there is no use of configuring the password. So when we store the passwords in the running configuration file or startup configuration file, we have to encrypt the password and we have to store. We have to convert the plain text password into ciphertext, and then we have to store in the running configuration file or startup configuration file. So for example, how to do that one? Okay, if you want to encrypt all the plain text passwords stored in the running configuration file, you have to use the command service password encryption. Actually, if you see, this is only two words. Service is a word, the next word is password hyphen encryption. Service password hyphen encryption. So if you execute this command, this command encrypts all the passwords stored in the running configuration file. The next thing is banner message. Normally, a banner message is important to warn the unauthorized person or unauthorized users from attempting to access the devices. Normally you can see some billboards, unauthorized access or restricted. So you can see some billboards or signboards. So like that, if you want to restrict the if you want to warn the unauthorized users from accessing the device, you have to configure the banner message. So how do you create the banner message? To create the banner message, we have to use the command banner MOTD. So what is this MOTD? Message of the day. MOTD, message of the day. So banner MOTD and then followed by the message. If you want to warn the user, you have to type the message. If you see, this message should be typed within the delimiter. So a delimiter can be any symbol. The message should be start and end with the particular symbol. So if you see, normally we will use the hash symbol at the beginning and end of the banner message. The next thing is the configuration files. There are two system files are available in the devices: startup configuration file and running configuration file. The startup configuration file is stored in the NVRAM. You know that NVRAM is a non-volatile RAM. It is a permanent memory. Okay. Now the startup configuration file is stored in the permanent memory NVRAM. This startup configuration contains all the commands that will be used by the device upon startup or reboot. When you start the device will fetch all the commands from the startup configuration file, or when you reboot the device, it will fetch all the commands from the startup configuration file. Then a running configuration file. This running configuration file is stored in the random access memory RAM. It reflects the current configuration. Whatever the changes you are doing, it is stored in the running configuration file. So modifying the running configuration file will change the behavior or characteristics of the device. And RAM is a volatile memory. If you restart the device or shut down the device, the content stored in the RAM will be lost. Right. Now, for example, we have two configuration files. The changes you do, everything will be configured in the running configuration file. Running configuration file is a temporary file because it is stored in the RAM. So if you want to save the changes permanently, what you have to do? You have to copy the content from the running configuration file to the startup configuration file, because startup configuration file is a permanent file and it is stored in the NVRAM. How do you copy the content from the running configuration file to the startup configuration file? For that, you have to use the command copy running config space startup config. So this is a little bit big, right? So you can simplify the command by using copy run start. There is an alternative command also available, WR. So if you want to save the configuration, you have to execute this command only in the privilege exe mode. If you want to save the configuration in the global configuration mode, you have to use do copy run start, or you have to use the command do WR. So you have to add do before the copy run start command in global configuration mode. Okay, now we are going to discuss about how to alter the running configuration. For example, I have done some configuration. Maybe I have done some mistakes, or I don't want to keep this configuration. I want to go back with the previous configuration. I want to restore the device with the previous configuration. So if you want to do that, you have to execute the command reload. So if you execute the command reload, so what it will do, it will restart the device with the previous configuration. I hope you understand. So what is the command used to reload the previous configuration? That is reload command. Right. Now, for example, I have done some changes in the running configuration file. I have saved it, but I have done some mistakes. So if you save it, it will be saved in the startup configuration file. Now I have done some mistakes, so I don't want this file. I want to remove the startup configuration file, delete the startup configuration file. So what is the command you will use to remove the startup configuration file or delete the startup configuration file? For that, you have to use the command erase startup config. Once you erase the startup configuration file, then you have to reload the device. How do you reload the device? By using the command reload. The next thing is IP addressing. I hope you all know about the IP addressing. Without IP address, the device cannot communicate, or the device cannot establish an end-to-end communication with other device or on the internet. And then if you see the IP address, the structure of the IP address is called a dotted decimal notation. If you see the IP address 192.168.1.10, what is this? There is a dot comes in between the decimal notation. So because of that, the IP address is called a dotted decimal notation. The IPv4 addresses are 32-bit in size, and the IPv4 addresses are represented by using the decimal number range 0 to 255. Right now, when you configure the IP addressing information for the device, you have to configure three things. One is IP address, subnet mask, and then the default gateway. So IP address we know. Subnet mask. What is the subnet mask? The subnet mask is also a 32-bit value. What is the use of this subnet mask? This subnet mask differentiate the network portion and the host portion of the address. If you see the IP address contains two portions of the address. One is the network portion, another one is the host portion. So how the system or how the devices or router or any other devices will identify which is the host portion and which is the network portion? For that we will use the subnet mask. The ones in the subnet mask represents the network portion. Okay, right. Now the next thing is default gateway. Why default gateway is important for the host? If you see, if you want to communicate within the network, the default gateway address is not required. If you want to communicate from one network to another network, the device will communicate with forward the message to the gateway. The gateway will forward the message to the destination. So if you want to communicate from one network to another network, you require the gateway address. If you want to communicate within the same network, no need of gateway address. Okay, so interfaces and ports. We already discussed about this interfaces. If you see, there are different types of medias are there. Twisted pair copper cable, fiber optic cable, coaxial cable, wireless. Already we discussed about these different types of devices, media. Okay, different types of network media have different features and benefit. Some of the difference between various types of medias include, the first one is distance the media can successfully carry the signal. We can compare all these three medias: copper media, fiber media, and wireless. So all these medias are having some restriction. If you see the copper media and fiber media, the copper media can carry the data up to a short distance, whereas the fiber media can carry the data for a long distance. So that is the difference in terms of the distance. The next thing is environment in which the media is to be installed. For example, in some situation, if the building is very old or traditional building, if you are not allowed to install the wired network, in that situation you can go for the wireless network, wireless media. Then the amount of data and the speed at which it must transmit. If you compare the copper media and the fiber media, the copper media can transmit the less amount of data, and it transmits the data at low speed compared to the fiber media. In fiber media, we can send a large amount of data. At the same time, you can transmit at high speed. Then we will take the last one, cost. We will compare the cost. If you see the cost of the media, copper media is less expensive or cheaper compared to the fiber media. Fiber media is very expensive. And installation. You can easily install the copper media, whereas installing the fiber media is very difficult. So these are all the difference between the medias. So IP address configuration, we all know about this IP address configuration. IP address can be configured for a device in two ways. One is static method, another one is DHCP, dynamic method. So we all know about this, how to configure the IP address manually and how to configure the IP address using the DHCP. This part already we discussed, and you all know because you studied this in the prerequisite course also. So it is a basic thing, so I am not going to discuss about this in detail. Right, SVI. What is SVI? Switch Virtual Interface. If you want to configure or manage the switch remotely, definitely you have to configure the IP address for the switch. How do you configure the SVI? So the SVI is configured by using the command. You have to configure the IP address for the VLAN. So you have to enter the command interface VLAN1, and you have to configure the IP address for that switch. IP address, you have to type the IP address, given IP address followed by the given subnet mask. Then you have to enable this IP address, or sorry, you have to enable this virtual interface by using the command no shed. Okay, if you fail to give this command no shed, this interface will not be activated. So that's all about this.